Hi, this is Katie Weeks, your independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. And today I'm joining the Inspiration Collaboration Design Team for a Mystery Envelope Challenge. So this month's Mystery Envelope Challenge comes to us from Kami, and she's included some acrylic white stars, 2 strips of some old pattern paper from her stash, and a piece of raspberry cardstock. And she says a little dog hair. I couldn't find it in my envelope, but she said there was bonus points if we would include that. Her challenge was that we can use these if we want and anything from our stash, but the main thing that we had to do was include a Cricut image. It could be a title, a sentiment, an embellishment, but we needed to use something that included a Cricut image. And I was trying to decide what to do, and I was really had my heart set on a layout. So I was looking for some inspiration from these papers, and although I didn't think I would use these, especially like this one, I didn't think it went as much with the stars for what I want to do for a layout. So I decided to go with something that had kind of a washed look. And so I started looking at my Stampin' Up! Papers and seeing what I could use. And I decided that I'd use the Unbounded Beauty DSP because it kind of has a washed look to it. And so I wanted to pull those in, and that was kind of inspired by these papers. And then I was going to use this, and I think I will use some coordinating Stampin' Up! Colors for my cardstock. I'm going to start by gutting 2 pieces of cardstock. So basically I'm going to put this in my paper trimmer, take it over to the 1-inch mark on the far side, and then I'm going to trim up from 11 inches up to 1 inch. Rotate 90 degrees and do that again. And I will do that 4 times to get a frame. Then I will save some of my cardstock and not waste the whole sheet on each side. I'm going to do that to both pieces, and then I'm taking this basic white and I'm going to trim off a 1/2 inch from 2 sides. And then I will put that on my cardstock like this. I think I'm going to take my inspiration for my layout from this card right here. And so you'll probably see something that sort of mimics that. So I ended up taking about 2 inches off of the top of the stripe paper and then trimming this first one ultimately to be about 8 inches wide and the other side to be about 3 inches wide. And then the splotchy paper, I trimmed off 1 inch from the top and I trimmed it to be 8.5 inches wide. And the one for the other side of the layout to be 3.5 inches wide. And then for the left layout, I glued it all the way to the right on top of the splotchy paper, and the right side I glued it all the way to the left so that they had an outside 1/2 inch border on each one. Or maybe it was a little over a 1/4 inch border, I think, actually, that we had around on each side. But I really like how that laid out on the page, and then I just put it down on my cardstock frames right up against the very center of the layout. The next thing that I worked on was adding some adhesive, liquid adhesive to the back of the colored cardstock, and I layered them on white. I could have cut them in the same color, but I just cut them on white, and I had welded some of the pieces together, and then I glued the different colored cardstocks on top of it to give it just a little bit more dimension. And my title says shoot for the stars, and so I just worked on gluing those together and making my title. I also cut some little strips of the patterned DSP and extra cardstock so that I could layer my title on top of it, and then I glued those on top of those strips because they had little strips of paper or something on that card sketch that I was referencing. And then I had also cut out some little star clusters, and so I wanted to put one of those star clusters under the word stars. So my first cluster is right there incorporated into the title, and then I'm going to add the rest of my title, I think, here. Yes. So I have my title, and then I'm going to clean up my mat from where I had used that liquid glue, and then I'm going to add some of these photo spots. So from my extra cardstock that I had left over, I decided to cut photo mats that were 4 1/4 by 6 1/4, so I could put 4 by 6 photos on my layouts. I usually make my layouts so that I have bigger photo spots. I really enjoy working with the 4 by 6 format the most. I think I would almost rather put some flip-flaps on my layout and have multiple of the larger photos than a bunch of small ones, but that's just my preference. So I cut some of those, and I'm deciding how to lay those out, and I decide I need to use all 3 colors to kind of tie in with that title a little bit. So I'm going to lay those out on here, and then I think I'll just put 3 on for now, and if I need more I can use these a little later. And I still have 2 more clusters of stars, and so I think I will use one over that first photo spot, but when I glue it down I need to make sure that I only glue the stars that are above and to the side of that photo mat, if that makes sense. So you'll see that I keep kind of referencing and flipping it over to see where this is going to lay, to figure out where I need to place my glue, because I want to be very strategic about where I place my glue so I can still slide a photo under it. And then here's a tip. I usually take a scrap piece of paper and make sure I can still slide it under there just fine. And so you need to make sure that you've got real clean cuts on your Cricut images. And so I was just cleaning mine up a little bit and then adding some of this glue. I found that putting some of my glue in a very fine tip applicator makes it a little easier for me to use on really thin pieces. And then I have all of these little stars, these acrylic stars that I want to add. And I found that glue dots is about the best thing that you can use to put these on. So I got out a couple different sizes of glue dots and went through and glued down as many of them as I could. And it's probably hard for you to see it on this layout, but it really does give it some dimension. And I always like additional texture on my paper, so this sticks up and I really like that. And I really liked the two shooting stars that were included in these. So thank you, Kami. And so I put those shooting stars right around my title. I thought that was absolutely perfect. And then the last thing I did was I got my stamp set that says is Round We Go, and I pulled out the little starburst that was in there, and I'm going to do what I call lazy stamping. So I think this one might be Summer Splash that I got out, and I just stuck the polymer stamp right to my fingers, and then I stamped and then stamped off and then inked it up again, stamped and stamped off. And I did this with Petunia Pop and maybe Pretty and Pink, a couple of colors, and stamped them all around the layout. So here's a final look at the whole layout all together, and I'll even zoom in and let you see that title a little closer. Thanks so much, Kami, for sending us all of these fun little embellishments and the challenge to use Cricut. Make sure you check out the other girls on the Inspiration Collaboration Design team. Like, comment, share, and subscribe for more crafty inspiration.